What happens when country music royalty walks into a talk show expecting small talk and ends up in a heated on-air argument? When Reba McEntire sat across from Joy Behar, no one knew the smiles would vanish within minutes. What started as friendly banter turned into a verbal brawl that left producers stunned, the audience frozen, and the internet on fire. This wasn't just an interview. It was a showdown, a clash of pride, power, and truth that spiraled far beyond what anyone at The View was ready for. The cameras rolled, and the familiar hum of The View filled the air. Reba McEntire sat poised in the guest chair, calm and gracious as always, her southern charm disarming yet commanding. But across from her sat Joy Behar, a woman known for never missing a chance to stir the pot. Joy leaned forward, smiling just enough to hide the edge in her tone. "Back in your day, Reba," she said, tilting her head, "talent came before hashtags, right?" The audience laughed politely, unsure if it was a joke or a jab. Reba's smile didn't falter, but her eyes narrowed ever so slightly. She knew exactly what Joy was doing. Still, Reba wasn't one to take the bait too early. "Well, Joy," she said softly, "every generation has its own way of reaching people. These young artists are just using new tools. Doesn't make them less talented." Joy leaned in, sensing weakness that wasn't really there. "Come on, Reba," she said, waving her hand dismissively. "You're not telling me some kid lip-syncing on TikTok deserves to be called an artist, are you? Anyone with a phone can go viral now. It's not like back when real talent mattered. The tone was playful on the surface, but it carried that bite that Joy had perfected over the years." Reba chuckled lightly, though there was a warning in her voice. "Careful now, Joy. Mocking passion doesn't make you an expert, just a cynic." The line hit sharper than it sounded, and a few people on set shifted in their seats. Joy's smirk faltered for half a second before she snapped back, "Oh, come on, sweetheart. It's not cynicism. It's experience." Reba leaned back in her chair, the smile fading into something colder. "Funny," she said slowly, "because experience usually comes with wisdom, not condescension." The air changed. Even Whoopi glanced over, as if to signal Joy to ease up, but it was too late. Joy pushed forward, maybe to prove she could still win this kind of exchange. "All I'm saying," she said, "is that it used to mean something to pay your dues. You worked hard, you earned respect. Now people just chase views. That was it." Reba leaned forward, her voice low and steady, but her words carried weight. "You want to talk about paying dues?" she said, her accent cutting through the tension like a blade. "When I was 16, I was singing in honky-tonk bars for $20 a night, driving across states in a beat-up pickup, sleeping in the back seat, praying the next town would even know my name. I've played shows where the crowd could fit in a booth at Waffle House. I've tuned my guitar at midnight with bloody fingers just to make rent." She paused, looking directly into Joy's eyes. "So, unless you've done that, Joy, unless you've paid in sweat and silence and loneliness, don't tell me about paying dues." The room fell completely silent, the kind of silence that doesn't come from shock, but from realization. Reba had just flipped the interview upside down, and Joy knew it. Her smirk was gone. For the first time, she didn't have a comeback. Reba didn't gloat, didn't raise her voice. She just sat back, composed, like someone who'd been through far worse than a talk show jab, and wasn't about to let anyone rewrite what she'd earned. Joy shifted in her seat, the easy confidence she had at the start now slipping away. Her tone sharpened, a little louder, a little meaner, a sign she could feel the ground tilting beneath her. "Maybe the problem isn't the industry, Reba," she snapped. "Maybe the problem is veterans like you who can't stand not being the center of attention anymore." The words hit the table like a slap. The room froze. Reba's face didn't move, but her eyes did. That soft Oklahoma warmth was gone. What replaced it was steel. Her voice dropped lower, quieter, but more dangerous. "You want attention, Joy?" she said slowly. "Here's some truth. The only reason people still talk about you is because you pick fights with guests who outshine you. The air got heavier. Joy tried to laugh it off, but it came out forced, shaky. "Cute line," she said with a smirk that didn't reach her eyes. "Did one of your songwriters write that for you?" Reba didn't blink. She tilted her head just slightly, a small, deliberate pause before delivering the kind of comeback that ends a conversation. "No, honey," she said softly. "That one's from me, straight from a woman who earned her microphone." The audience didn't cheer or gasp. They just stayed silent, watching the two women lock eyes. Joy, realizing she was losing the room, slammed her hand on the table, trying to reclaim control. "You think I'm intimidated by you?" she barked. "I've stood up to politicians, presidents." Reba cut in, sharp as glass. "And somehow, truth still scares you." The tone in her voice made the hairs on the back of your neck stand up. She leaned forward, elbows on her knees, her gaze locked on Joy like a hunter sighting her mark. "You can't stand women who don't bow to your brand of sarcasm," she said, every word measured, deliberate. "You mock what you don't understand, because deep down, you envy it." Joy opened her mouth to fire back, but nothing came out. The lights felt brighter, the air thicker. Reba wasn't shouting. She didn't need to. Her calm was louder than Joy's anger. Joy let out a sharp laugh, not the kind that comes from humor, but the kind people use when they're losing ground and need to cover it up. "Envy?" she said, her tone dripping with disdain. "Please, I wouldn't trade this chair for your broken guitars and cowboy nostalgia." It was meant to sting, and it did, but not the way she hoped. Reba rose slowly from her seat, her every movement deliberate. Her eyes burned with the kind of fire that comes from years of swallowing pride and pain. "That cowboy nostalgia," she said evenly, "built a career that outlived networks like this one." The studio went dead quiet. You could hear the faint hum of the cameras, but no one dared to breathe too loudly. Reba's voice grew stronger, more grounded with every word. "You talk about real battles, Joy?" she said, her tone steady but trembling at the edges with emotion. "Try burying 8 friends after a plane crash and finding the strength to walk back on stage with a smile. Try rebuilding your life after being told you're too country for pop, too pop for country, too old to matter, too female to lead." She shook her head slightly, her voice deepening. "That's a battle, Joy. That's what surviving looks like." Joy blinked, caught off guard by how raw and real it had suddenly become. She shifted, clearly uncomfortable, and tried to hit back. "Tragedy doesn't make you untouchable, Reba," she said sharply. "Everyone's got scars." Reba didn't flinch. Instead, she stepped closer, her heels clicking against the stage floor, each sound cutting through the tension like a heartbeat. But not everyone hides theirs behind jokes. The words hung in the air like smoke, thick, suffocating, impossible to ignore. For the first time, Joy's expression faltered. Her mouth opened, but no words came out. That line had landed too cleanly, too deep. Reba stood tall now, her presence filling the room. "You've built a career tearing people down," she said, voice calm again. But this calm was colder, sharper. "You disguise cruelty as honesty, sarcasm as wit. But when someone finally stands up to you, you call it disrespect." She leaned forward slightly, her eyes locked on Joy's. "No, Joy. It's not disrespect. It's accountability." Joy's hands were trembling slightly, but she folded them in her lap, trying to hide it. The rest of the table stayed silent. Whoopi looked down, Sunny stared straight ahead, and even the crew seemed frozen. For once, Joy Behar wasn't in control of the room. Reba was. And the woman standing across from her didn't just win an argument. She'd exposed something deeper. This wasn't about country music anymore. It was about pride, fear, and the one thing neither of them could fake: truth. Joy's tone turned venomous, her smile now nothing but armor. "Accountability?" she scoffed, leaning forward. "Please, you're just another celebrity pretending to be deep. You sing heartbreak for a living. I live it on air every damn day." Reba didn't even blink. Her voice came back smooth, but with that dangerous calm that only people who've survived real storms can manage. You live off other people's heartbreak, Joy, she said, eyes locked on her. That's the difference. Joy laughed, not with humor, but with bitterness. Oh, don't act holy now, Reba. You think because you've written a few sad songs that gives you some moral high ground? You cry on stage for applause? I make people face reality. Reba stepped closer, her tone low and steady. Reality? You wouldn't know reality if it sat across from you with a microphone. You hide behind jokes because you're scared to actually feel something. You talk about truth, but every word out of your mouth is performance. Joy clenched her jaw, her voice rising with frustration. You don't scare me. Reba smiled faintly, shaking her head. I don't need to. Truth does the scaring for me. Their eyes locked in a stare that could cut through steel. Neither one moved, both of them frozen in a power struggle that had nothing to do with music or TV anymore. It was pride versus pride, conviction versus ego. Joy tried to reclaim the upper hand. You know what your problem is? She said sharply. You've been worshipped for so long, you forgot how to take a hit. You live in a bubble of yes men who tell you you're untouchable. But here, on my show, nobody's untouchable. Reba tilted her head, her voice cooling into something razor thin. No, Joy. You're right about one thing. Nobody's untouchable. Especially not people who confuse cruelty with honesty. Joy's face twisted, her voice breaking through the silence like glass shattering. Maybe it's time country music retired its queens, starting with you. The words were brutal, meant to wound. Reba didn't flinch. She gave a small laugh, low, humorless, the kind that comes from someone who's seen too much to be shocked anymore. And maybe, she said slowly, it's time talk shows stopped confusing cruelty with courage. That one landed. The tension became unbearable, like the air had turned solid. Joy tried to answer, but Reba kept going. You sit here every morning, hiding behind that desk, throwing stones at people you'll never be brave enough to be. You call it commentary. I call it cowardice. Joy leaned forward again, her voice trembling with anger. You think you can come here on my stage and lecture me? She spat. You're a guest, Reba. Not the judge. Reba's voice dropped even lower, almost a whisper, but it carried like thunder. No, Joy. I'm not the judge. I'm just the first person who stopped pretending you're right. That line hit her like a punch. Joy froze, staring at Reba, searching for something to throw back, but nothing came. For the first time, the woman who made a career out of controlling the room had lost it completely. Reba unclipped her mic slowly, the movement deliberate, almost ceremonial. You wanted controversy, Joy? She said quietly. Congratulations. You just got honesty instead. She placed the microphone on the desk with care, like closing a book she was done with. Then she turned and walked away, her heels hitting the floor in a steady rhythm that sounded like punctuation marks to everything she'd just said. Joy sat there, still, her mouth half open but no words coming out. Her eyes followed Reba until she disappeared off camera. The show wasn't over, but the fight was, and everyone knew who had walked out with her dignity intact. Joy adjusted her papers, pretending to focus on something else, but her hands shook slightly. For the first time in years, her silence spoke louder than her voice. The war between them wasn't settled. It was just beginning, and everyone watching could feel it. If you thought this showdown was intense, just wait. The fallout was even bigger. Whose side are you on? Reba's or Joy's? Drop your thoughts in the comments, hit that subscribe button, and turn on notifications so you don't miss the next explosive moment that's got everyone talking.